Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing Fast and the Furious 6, directed by Justin Lin, Furious 7 by James Wan, The Fate of the Furious by F. Gary Gray, F8te, The Fast Saga by Justin Lin, and finally, newly released Fast 10, directed by Louis Leterrier. It's going to be a great show, folks, so stay tuned and enjoy. Mr. Vincent Daly, how we doing, buddy?
Thomas, how's it going?
Vroom, vroom, I'm doing well. How's it going on the other side of the table, friend?
I thought I have expected to walk into a Corona in your hand. Handed me lime and all, you know?
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Corona. They drink Corona in every film. It's Dom's thing.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, yeah. Big advertising.
Didn't know the meme. Sorry. Didn't. Okay, another big week for you. When we last recorded, you had watched 7. Yeah. So here you had 3 more to knock off.
3 more. Took the entirety of the week to stomach down the 3 more. I'll tell you that much.
Folks, if you want to get all caught up, listen to last week's special. It's the Fast movies 1 through 5. We're going to handle 6 through 10 now. Yeah, it's quite the journey that we're on. We're halfway through.
Yeah.
If you want to, should we just jump right in where we last started?
No, not gonna.
Any housekeeping or?
No, I guess I just wanted to say that I think now with the full 10 under the belt.
Yes.
Was it worth
the whole idea?
Yeah, was it worth the whole idea of watching them? No, from the movie watching experience. Yep. So folks at home, if you find you use the podcast as kind of a watching guide in any kind of functionality of it, definitely not one to emulate like we do with the director's studies or the writer's studies. You know, this is not the one to read along with. But I will say, especially for, it's fascinating, if only for Fast 10. It was very useful having the entire series under my belt because it was just so, it was honestly easy to call the coin on, heads or tails. Is this good? Is this bad?
Okay.
Basically. So,
okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah. With the entire series in the rear view.
Yeah. So, it's just funny. It's just like, hey, thank God I watched the 9 films because it made judging the 10th really easy.
Yeah. That's basically it.
Okay. So really, if you had to sit through all of the extended editions Lord of the Rings or watch all 10 Fast and Furious, it's really a no-brainer for the 2 people in the world wondering if that's the case or not.
Right. Yeah, actually very specific 2 people. You being one of them, I would say begrudgingly, yes, I could not disagree with that.
I don't know why begrudgingly. I think, Okay, all right, so let's go ahead. We are in 2013. This is Fast and Furious 6. We're coming off of Fast 5. Both directed by Justin Lin.
Yep.
Justin Lin is all over this franchise, covering 5 of them total? Of the 10?
4. But really the most pivotal ones.
We had 3 last week and we have 2 today.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
It's 5. That's 5. Okay, Fast and Furious 6. They're just pumping them out. 2013.
Yeah, it's clockwork like every 2 years now.
Right, when it was 3 years before. So,
yep.
Okay, 2013, PG-13, 2 hours and 10 minutes, Fast and Furious 6. The human thumb is here. Or back, I should say. How is it, Vin? How do we like it?
For what it's worth, Fast and Furious 6 is probably one of the best stunt-oriented ones of the whole franchise.
Okay,
Which
all right.
is, I mean, if you want to kind of boil it down to what are we here for, I think that's probably a good, at least 50% of why people are seeing this, how crazy the mayhem can be.
Especially now, like post Fast 5.
Bingo.
That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
We are an action movie now.
Yeah.
Not racing movie now.
Absolutely. Folks, we start off once again with Justin Lin being his second to last film before Fast 9. But the restraints are gone as the success of making Fast 5, this fan-driven mayhem explosion, will now define all 5 later movies of the series to the point of nausea. The opening credits here reuses so much footage in place of a fun, quick racing sequence. In fact, this whole movie is flashback city, actually, further robbing previous films from importance. And once again, I mean, I really had to eliminate expanded notes on this in almost every review, but just making up shit that did not happen the first time around in the films that they reference.
Yeah, I mean, you were bringing this up left and right last week.
Yeah, and honestly, I for these later films, I cut it out because I'm not just trying to repeat myself again and again, but just know that it never
there.
stops. Yeah,
Right,
it never stops.
The BS adding is there.
Yeah. Don't blink twice, because it took only 2 movies for Michelle Rodriguez to be back. A real ghost from Toretto's past. Turns out this time around she has amnesia. Oh joy, my favorite writing trope. She is teamed up with a international bad guy named Shaw, and while Dom and crew could care less about him, he holds their girl Letty in the palm of his hand. The Rock then recruits the whole gang, or should I say family, to track her down. And boy, does the family stuff get just clocked up to 11 here.
Yep.
As soon as I saw them pulling this amnesia card out of their ass, I just knew we were going to get some shoveled emotional garbage in the writing, and it is here for sure, because they got to save Letty. They got to bring Letty back in more than one way, and how do we do that then? Connected to family. It's just right. I will need to start.
We have to do a compilation or special on amnesia films.
Oh yeah,
like 50 First Dates, number 1.
Oh,
like all the way.
I would love that. That's a great compilation. The Curse of Amnesia.
Right.
To the point that I really doubt the actual medical. I mean, is amnesia real? I don't know. I feel like I'm being gaslit. I will need to start mentioning it less and less, but the crew here, they are full-on Interpol spies now. So you might be asking, why do we need cars then? Well, it turns out the bad guys use cars too, and have a new prototype that is basically a weaponized stunt ramp fused with a Formula One race car. And I'll be honest, it's actually pretty cool.
Oh, okay. All right.
Adds to a lot of fun scenes where, I don't know, in a car scene, we talked about car destruction.
Carfu.
Yeah, Carfu for sure. I don't know, this F1 monstrosity race car. I don't know. I think it looks cool. It kind of has some play into the bad guy's heist, and
kind of has its own character, its own identity a little bit.
Yeah, and it is a stunt machine. Like, the idea of the car within the universe is to get cars out of the way by having them ramp off of it and driving right towards them.
Right.
For the actual production of stunts, I feel like that is also a awesome enabler of the stunts that are put on in the film. So this F1 kind of prototype thing.
Kind of cool.
It was doing it for me.
It's got you interested at least.
Yeah. And maybe it's a little bit like the bad guy is a car as well. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
No, I think that kind of works. If you can play the cars off themselves, boy, this is really just popping in my head now.
Oh God.
The best Fast and Furious movie, in fact, is Mad Max Fury Road. Just thinking about it now.
Yeah, Furiosa.
Furiosa. Everything's there. Wow. That's what every Fast and Furious movie should be. Actually,
yeah. And we get Charlize Theron soon in the franchise.
Because if the cars are kind of taking their own character in and of itself, and they have their own personas, kind of. Yeah. That's cool. You know what I mean? That's cool. And if what you're doing with them movie after movie amps up, what's shocking to me, kind of doing more research on these films and everything like that, is how it's not that they have to get better, but sometimes it's almost like there's not amping up. Like sometimes they're just like worse, the newer ones as you go.
Yeah,
and that you'll be the definitive teller of
sure,
that. But then,
sure.
we were talking about Mission Impossible recently, and one thing is they're going to get crazier and crazier.
Mm-hmm.
The stunts are going to go crazy because Tom Cruise would love nothing to do but to die for a movie, I think. You know what I mean? So it's at least...
So true.
With Fast, it's almost like what they're trying to do, but it doesn't seem like that they're always hitting it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that holds at all. I'm kind of just looking at it from far away.
Yeah, I think it's a great observation. And for such a franchise that is trying to be the newer style Mission Impossible movies, why aren't the newer ones, as they are crazier amped up, copying Mission, which honestly, I mean, we'll have to get to that when we cover all the Mission Impossibles, but I think there is a steady incline to all the Mission Impossibles getting better and better. Honestly, there's
something to be said about that.
Care put into the stunts and craziness, but yeah, no, I think
right.
It's a great observation.
Naturally you would think it's going to get better and better, but it's always waffling. These it's just a weird big old franchise.
Yeah.
Regardless,
absolutely.
that's good that at least in this one, these cars have their own persona. Some of the stunts look cool, and the setup is there for you.
Absolutely.
Sorry, that was a long circle we just took.
No.
When Mad Max popped in my head, I felt like I need to speak this circle.
Folks, we are making massive leaps in what our characters are capable of, but admittedly, it's less of what we talked about in 4, that kind of Batman syndrome. So they've learned their lesson there. It's more so everyone in the crew has now upgraded into full super spy mode. Everyone is an expert marksman, engineer, a super hacker, which is very annoying. Ludacris is basically rewritten as a genius gadget character, a la a Q in a James Bond. Yeah, absolutely. And by far becomes my least favorite character for the remaining of the franchise. Me and Luda, we're going at it. We're scrapping over this. He's an ass actor. I hate how he's written.
Luda.
I mean, he really just becomes my least favorite part about it. Not because of how he's paired in scenes or really any number of explanations to it. It is just that, man, rather than just being a flat-out bad actor like some of our other actors on set, it is just that the writer's hands are so far up his ass that it's just every one of his line manipulates the story wherever it needs to go.
Okay.
He's a utility. He's not even a character. He's a tool to write themselves out of plot holes and plot conveniences.
Ultra laziness.
Ultra laziness, but also manipulative. Like, I don't know.
And he's the scapegoat almost.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's such a shame with poor writing and rewriting of characters, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's a cheap way out. And it sounds like every character is like that to an extent. Like you said, everyone's a marksman. Like,
yeah, but Ludacris specifically, there's something about
it's all
it.
he went all out.
Yeah, and there's always a line in one of these films that's just like, you just know that this is just like, oh yeah, I guess we do have to explain this tech in some kind of way. Oh yeah, Luda can say that, right? You know,
right.
It's and that's what I mean by this like puppeteering. Like, you know, he doesn't even have agency. It feels like as an actor, as a role. You know,
way too convenient to be believable.
Yeah. You said it for me, though, Tom. Human Thumb Vin Diesel is unintentionally hysterical in this. I mean, this movie almost has so bad it's good points because of Vin Diesel alone. He gives these, like, 1,000-yard stares where he tilts his head and, like, only, like, slightly smiles, like... I mean, I was just dying laughing at his performance in this one. We will also see Vin thrown into a lot, and I mean a lot, more hand-to-hand fight sequences over the next 2 films, with his physicality clocked up a lot. And this, of course, gives us one of the worst fighting moves ever recorded to film, the flying headbutt.
What?
Yeah. Or should I say the flying thumb press? Right. Man, you know, flying Superman punches are a classic, like, kind of easy kung fu type of thing to take out a henchman in this. It's very, you know, a la Kirk, you know, William Shatner kind of, you know, fighting. There is one, though, that he just ascends. He just lifts, and it is a airborne battering ram with his forehead. It's just, again, unintentionally hysterical the entire time.
At least you're cracking a smile a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's okay.
Right.
Like, he's getting worse. He's literally getting worse.
Getting worse. We do see a little bit of an uptick, but, these films, if there's anything defining these latter 5 films, is that just when you think they could just be plug and play, same old, they create new problems for themselves. They dig the grave deeper. Now, let me give some praise where it matters most. And like I said, the car stunts in this film are quite a big step up. Seriously, some of my favorite stunts out of all these movies are in this movie. We are fully in that mayhem category for car action. However, these latter 5 movies will work depending on if it makes sense with the cars or not. Like we talked about just a little bit ago, the perfect example is this F1 car with a stunt ramp welded to it. I thought not only was it a cool tool for the bad guys' heist to use, but also it made for fun scenes for the mayhem to make some sense, Cars are going to fly no matter what in these films.
Right.
That's a given.
Yeah, for sure.
Cars are flying.
Yes.
They're off the ground in many, many different ways, but having that be somehow attached to the logic, the weaponry of the bad guy, I thought that was a good pairing. I want to give credit where credit is due. Notable stunts here are the introduction of our villain and this crazy stunt car, a fun city chase between Letty and Dom, peak amnesia, so she's on the bad guy's side, and of course the sheer destruction of a tank used towards the end of the film. And I feel like this was a fantastic cap for Justin Lin, because what was I praising with Tokyo Drift? The destruction of cars, like real destruction of cars up close and not CGI, or as much CGI that I couldn't tell.
Right.
The destruction that comes from this tank looks real good. And again, unique, because more and more the destruction, will get crazier, but that's where CGI steps into it then. This, honestly, out of the Justin Lin films, I think hit a sweet spot for those reasons. All-around stunt work. And again, I've always kind of complimented his eye for this.
You did. No, you did. And I think that's so good. And we especially appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because you're going to do real stunts. I mean, let's just be honest. Like, back to Mad Max Fury Road, everything was real practical events, real explosions, real car damage.
A lot of gasoline.
And it just makes the picture better.
Yeah.
It's not that uncanny valley where something's off and we're being thrown off of it. It's fun to watch real cars get damaged.
Yeah, get messed up. Absolutely.
So cool. That's good. That's a highlight.
Seeing just like this tank just absolutely demolish anything it comes across under its treads. Like,
cool.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was the good side of this kind of visceral mayhem. So I'll end with this. The movie still has its priorities a little out of whack. Once again, kind of coming right off of my example with that blue Porsche from Fast 5, Luda and The Rock are getting cars just like the last film, and of course it's just not by racing. But I would say worse than the last movie is that it's not used to cut down on runtime or kind of a snappier race to the finale and just say, okay, they got the cars. Instead, even more time is used as real estate for just blatantly unfunny jokes. I mean, now it's not only are we skipping racing content, guess what? We're now skipping to get to jokes that are just like, who is laughing at this?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me tell you, if a joke was to come out of anyone in the crew, again, it's not Luda. So it's just yet another flawless example of how racing or even cars themselves are lost in the focus. But I'm going to have to start letting that go, honestly, because this does not simply represents the series, and the series simply does not care anymore. We're going to go ahead and give Fast and Furious 6 a 58.
58. Okay, we were in that warm puddle again. That shallow, slightly dirty puddle. Okay.
That dripping oil, that oil pan.
Okay. 56, you said? 56?
No, 58.
No, 58. I'm sorry. Tick up above the previous one, Fast 5.
Yes. And, pretty decent. Again, like I said, I mean, I think I'm looking back on the film, I'm actually a lot more positive on it, but I kind of need to remember, don't have the horse blinders on for those good stunts. There's plenty of bad.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, like you said, every 2 years. We're in 2015 now. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes. This is now the longest one yet. This is directed by James Wan. This is Furious 7, original title Fast and Furious 7, so don't get confused. This was the one I was most interested in. This is the one I tried to watch. I so desperately wanted to surprise you with the Tommy Two Shoes. I had an opportunity to watch it. I fell asleep very, very soon.
Right.
I wanted to watch it for 3 reasons.
Okay.
I mean, this is still why I'm most excited for it.
Okay.
It's the best selling. And this is actually when China really goes nuts on these films.
Yes.
I thought it was before, started with 4 or 5
Yep.
or 6. This is when they take off.
Mm-hmm.
Still, I mean, like Fast and Furious 6 made almost 70 million in China.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But now it's where it goes crazy.
Right.
Because this makes 1.5 bill.
Whoa.
Which is like crazy.
Whoa.
So it made the most. I thought it made the most because I thought this was the first one that Paul Walker wasn't in.
Oh, no.
So to my surprise when watching it, when starting it up, I was like, son of a bitch. Are you kidding me? He died during the filming of 7. But the biggest reason why I was like, okay, this will be the one I watch, which it turned out not to watch it. This is my favorite movie poster.
No, really?
Yeah, and sometimes it's just that simple of a choice.
This is the lineup one, right? Where they're kind of diagonally sprawled across, or no?
So this is the one where it's a really big close-up to the muscle car, and you see them dusty in the very, very back end.
Okay, right.
Can you picture it?
Yeah.
You were close to the tire almost.
Yep.
Anyway, Fast and Furious.
for what that's worth. We should have some rankings on posters. I can get behind some poster art.
They matter to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, really, when I checked out of this movie was almost immediately because out of nowhere, Vin Diesel is wielding a sledgehammer, and I broke out in laughter. I mean, I was literally laughing, and I was like, "This might be the best movie I've ever seen." I was like, "How does this suck this bad when you're 7 in?"
I know.
Where is the learned?
Where are the lessons? There's no takeaway.
Okay, so Fast and Furious 7, just get into it, Vin. How'd you like it?
That's so great. I also love that the context of all this is that you fell asleep almost immediately, too. Like, this thing rocked you to sleep. And it's supposed to be this, like, a hyper-fueled, NOS-fueled adventure, you know? All right, Furious 7. So in an odd turn, this film is directed by the horror film juggernaut James Wan. And I mean, really, James Wan is probably one of the most prolific now horror directors of our time. And the last shit show that we covered with him, Wan directed 2021's Malignant. We covered that on a very early episode of the podcast.
Yes, we did.
And oof.
Not too much of anything.
Yeah, not too much of anything. Well, definitely something. But not worth it. And, of course, his guiding hand is behind many productions from Blumhouse, including the trendy trash Mithrigan from earlier this year. So,
he did that?
Oh, yeah. Well, produced.
Okay, right.
And that's, you know, I mean, this guy is all over horror franchises.
New name, Schlock Jock.
Ooh.
Just a director that peddles out schlock in the industry. Industry man that peddles out schlock.
The thing is, I want to respect Wan. He makes franchises. Like, he is a king as far as getting something electric and just making money.
Yeah, well, like I said, this has made 1.5 billion. I'm not going to say it does. Maybe we don't know. Maybe we're schlock.
maybe we are. Furious 7 is much like 4 into 5. This movie picks up directly after 6, with the bad guys' brothers picking up the pieces. Shaw's brother was a decent villain in the last film, but now we have the transporter himself under the same name, Jason Statham. Honestly, this will, of course, play into the rivalry with The Rock's character, giving us the spin-off action film Hobbs and Shaw in 2019. That spin-off acting was a way for The Rock as well to continue with the franchise despite some serious drama on set with nearly all of the cast as well. So kind of some interesting production story. I personally don't really want to comment on all the drama of it, but it is kind of some juicy stuff if you're into it.
Okay.
So.
I'm actually surprised. I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah.
I was surprised because I remember like the actual real like family table they were sitting around soon after Paul Walker died.
Yep.
And it was like, it all seemed like everyone was chummy with each other.
Yeah.
It could have been early on, and maybe things didn't go south at that point.
Sure. I not to even choose sides. I mean, let me be very clear. I do not give a damn.
Of course.
But I could imagine The Rock being such a big personality coming into this, and Hobbs being honestly an electric character on screen in all of these films.
Right.
I could imagine, the cast having a fight or flight response and saying, "Oh, are we getting replaced? Are we getting?"
Bit of an ego thing too.
Sure, absolutely. If anything, only the ego.
Yeah, do you know if it was like, because Vin Diesel is like helming this now. Was it almost, was it them two going at
absolutely.
it?
Absolutely. But really all the cast kind of picking sides from what I understand.
Weird.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
But that really is, I can't stress enough though, and I'll probably have to state this for any further drama coming to mind. I know The Flash, we're going to have to talk about why Ezra Miller's not behind bars, but
right.
I think that's entirely separate from the criticism. You know what I mean?
Right. When we start our gossip podcast, that'll be that's the juicy stuff. We'll save it for that.
Daily ratings after out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Folks, we are smack dab back in Super Spy territory, this time after a MacGuffin called God's Eye, an Orwellian nightmare device that can track anyone on the planet by hacking cameras. This introduces a new crew member, Ramsey, played by Natalie Emmanuel. I believe she's from Game of Thrones. And that will unlock the tech in these movies to be near limitless. I mean, if we didn't have the excuse already by super hacker Ludacris, guess what? We now have a real hacker paired up with them, so it's limitless. I mean, there's nothing that these films don't touch on as techno babble and garbage. So, Kurt Russell is also brought in by the morally gray character Mr. Nobody to lead the gang on their mission. And while it may not be an outright terrible performance, Kurt just isn't doing a great job here in the role. I think it's very plug and play for Kurt.
Okay.
And I hate to say that because I honestly like Kurt Russell a lot more in his later career. Like a Hateful Eight kind of thing, those type of roles.
Hateful Eight, you even liked him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yeah.
You kind of like the character?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, he wasn't doing it for me here. Despite how, rule of cool the Mr. Nobody, I mean, by the name alone, kind of tries to operate by. He's just trying to be this, like, Black Ops type of guy.
Yeah.
This gives our plot to recover lost tech in Dubai, and while Shaw hunts Dom and crew down for some extra tension by complicating things. It's usually by initiating some sort of action sequence. Besides Statham being an actor I like, action sequences with him all kind of sucked. Now, luckily, this will not be the case for very long.
Okay.
As we go on later in the films, action sequences, as far as like hand-to-hand fight kind of choreography, do get a little bit better.
Okay.
Anytime he meets up with Dom, the two of them drive directly into each other, crashing like Hot Wheels. Like a child playing Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
Like that is their move. Like it's on site. It is on site. They are like playing chicken and neither of them let up and they just crash into each other. Then that proceeds with them getting out and having a fist fight. This happens, I believe, 3 times in the film. Okay. So it looks incredibly dumb, and I don't know who thought that looked cool. I just it's beyond me. I would say also nearly all gunfights are very weightless, being a low point among further split of action sequences. Before we had kind of a split of like, all right, it's car mayhem, it's racing, it's kung fu. Carfu maybe falling into kung fu, but now gunfights are in there as well, as distinctly different type of action sequences, and it's not a priority for the franchise. It's certainly not a highlight for Wan's directing. It just further splits our focus on how the action feels and what actually works on screen.
Right, it's just mediocrity.
Yeah. Also, we get possibly the worst choreographed fight sequence in the whole franchise with dual-wielding wrenches and sword fighting between Statham. This might have been what you saw before you nodded off.
No, it was very early on.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Vin Diesel was in a cemetery wielding a sledgehammer out of nowhere. Bursted out laughing. Yeah. And I said, "This is what the movie is." Okay, I see.
Okay, it illuminated for you.
Okay, so sword fighting.
Yeah, basically there's a fight sequence that they just are clashing wrenches, and it's just real bad.
Yeah.
I can't even like, I've seen a lot of commentary online be like, oh, can you believe that, bro? I listen. I don't think it looks cool. Like, I could get behind it and be hype around it, but I don't think it looks cool. I think it fails in that way.
Just hearing about them and going through them all, it's very much like, okay, new film, here's a bunch of boxes, let's check. Because people like this.
Right.
People look at John Wick. People love gunfighting.
Sure.
But when it's a crap gunfight, or when gunfighting sucks, you know what I mean? You're checking boxes, but just like I just said, it's mediocrity at its finest. finest, is what it seems
and it
like.
goes back. I forget which one I commented on. It might have been 4 or 5, but the kind of parasitic nature of these films to grab whatever is trending,
Whatever's sexy at the time. Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
And basically eat its leftovers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Paul Walker. Paul Walker has a big plot thread of here kind of being a new dad. However, this film, he goes missing in action. I want to say, much like we covered with Black Panther 2, I respect the hell out of any team that has to pivot mid-production because of a death.
Sure.
No less a leading role. You know what I mean? I feel like until this point, you can really see Walker as a co-lead, and in the early films, he was the lead. Vin was the co-lead.
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, he's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the backbone of the movie, I would say.
Right. But I can't help but feel this creates a blind spot for critics to praise the film more than they normally would. It's, of course, unfortunate that he died, no less at the hands of another driver, but the scenes that are edited in to fill his missing role are just very, very messy CGI. Now, admittedly, there is an impressive process behind filling in the scenes that he couldn't. It is a blend of his own footage, a body double, his real-life brothers, and also a voice actor, all mixed together to be stitched. So, for production standpoint, I feel like we've commented a lot on production type of appreciation for this whole franchise. I'll give some points, but I don't think it looks great in the end result.
Okay.
And was a distraction for me the whole film, figuring out when the CGI Frankenstein's monster was on screen or not. And at best, it's probably only on par with the type of Disney-style CGI monsters that we saw in like Rogue One,
Sure.
the Star Wars movie.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
Okay.
that's at its best. Most of the time, it's under that. So, again, I'm happy to see a team pull together and pivot like that.
Yeah, I mean, really trying. If they're pulling brothers, I mean, things like that. There's a lot going on.
Absolutely. And imagine working on that team. That's exciting work. And it's like, we have an immense problem to work with. How can we tackle this?
Right.
I just feel like, again, in the end result, it's just not great.
I mean, talk about an uphill battle.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Paul Walker was not the one driving the Porsche?
No, I think it was his friend, if I'm correct.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was kind of the tragedy of it as well.
Right.
Wrong place, wrong time, I guess you could say. Where I want to kind of pivot back to this again is that, like a Black Panther 2, I feel like critics out there, I'm not calling out anyone. Listen, if you're moved by this, fine. I think this plays into why this one is received so well. I think maybe from the budget, or not the budget, but the profit standpoint, why this one is probably, you said, the most successful.
Yes.
I feel like it is the goodbye letter, the send off for Paul Walker as well.
Yeah. Without question.
Yeah.
Without question, you can be very sure that this got bumped up so much on so many sites by critics because they felt like they had to, or because they were doing that thing. There's literally no question.
Right. So hopefully, and why I go so much into the explanation of my kind of rationale on how I see the production and how I see the result is to kind of explain that, like, I'm not just trying to shit on Paul Walker. I'm not just trying to shit on this movie, regardless of the attempt there. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. No worries there.
So, Vin, Mr. Potato Head Diesel, might be worse than ever with a lot of the script on his shoulders. And let me tell you, Vin is just not bringing it, especially in the secret spy, Interpol type settings. After he's recruited by Mr. Nobody, he gets a bit more commanding in his tone, but this kind of street kid demeanor will always be out of place. He's walking in a hangar, he's commanding people. It's just like, it's not the character.
Yeah.
And Vin's not doing a good job to represent that implied growth for the character.
Right.
He also introduces a new tactic for Dom getting out of situations, which is just driving off a cliff with his car. If that's your signature move, hey, if that's the new technique, good, but we see him use it a lot moving forward, and it does not help the argument that these characters are invincible and there's no stakes behind anything. Right. When he's just willing to just drive off a cliff and just, hey, we crash. If we crash, he gets out and all right, on to another car build. So I would say the racing is about on par for the previous entry, but an odd praise is actually in editing as a huge improvement. Much more stylish in cuts and in presenting the cars, kind of, if you will, prestige type of edits of cars. Really, I wouldn't bring it up as praise, but we will see the editing being a blemish for Fast 10. So I didn't really cut this note because, I noticed it enough to say, wow, this is a pretty slick looking movie.
Okay. It makes a big difference. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Notable stunts is an early race day with Letty, still suffering from amnesia and Dom trying to connect with her. But that's about it. However, we have the inclusion of bad stunts this first time around. The airplane drop sequence is just god-awful and played so comedically as well and so distinctly not funny. I don't know who laughs at this. And a very stupid passenger swap mid-drift with two cars, which is just like, all right, okay, all right. But other than that, that is about it, what I have to say for Fast 7. We're going to go ahead and give Furious 7 a 34.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Worth
That's
the
low.
shut-eye,
That's
Tom.
low. Worth the shut-eye. Okay, good. Wow, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I really didn't enjoy this one.
It makes sense. Yeah, wow, huh.
And you look online, and it's not monumental, but it's like, high 60s, yada yada, highest grossing.
They're still doing it a favor. They're doing it a favor.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So I'm just being real with it, and more so than anything, really. I just think Statham's inclusion was wasted space. Later on, he'll get a little bit better, but I was excited to see him, and then nothing.
I don't understand how 7, 8, 9, I can understand if it gets repetitive and it's like, here's another one, 50, 60%. But the fact that this is a 30, that's bad.
Yeah.
It's like, what are y'all doing?
I think Furious 7 is a very bad movie.
Not quite as bad. You gave 33 to the fourth film. The fourth one was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay. All right. Well, let's just keep on going. This is The Fate of the Furious here, otherwise known as F8. This came out in 2017. It's 2 hours and 16 minutes, Vin. Let's kind of get into it. We're full, no Paul Walker, so Vin Diesel is really having it now.
Yeah.
So let's just get into it. F8, how do we like it?
Well, folks, it's not the worst movie by a long shot. In fact, it might be my favorite out of the later 5, but it has the very worst title of them all. Fate. Fate.
It's bad.
Yeah.
That's literally what they're going for.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's missing the 8 replacing the A in Fate. That's how close we are.
Right. It's just so dumb. And does this follow? Do we pick up things right after the events of 7 or no? Is this starting a new?
Maybe a little bit of its new identity. Yeah.
Because I see what they're trying to do with some of the titles. Mm-hmm. Because now it makes sense. They should have just made it F8.
Yeah.
Or F8, The Fate of the Furious, because it's actually just called The Fate of the Furious.
Sure.
Because you have F8, because the next one is F9, the Saga or whatever.
And it should just be F10 or FX.
Which it is, it's F10. So, why is this The Fate of that's what the names are horrendous.
I know.
So you're putting this up for worst title.
Worst title, yeah, that's my vote for worst title. Not worst movie, though.
Okay, all right.
But you're right. This kind of goes back to your comment of aren't these mini trilogies? This is Charlize's kind of mini trilogy going into all the way to Fast 10.
Mm-hmm, right, of course, yep.
Some decent hits of director F. Gary Gray, who I actually kind of wanted to float a director's study for at some point down the road. He directed Friday, Set It Off, and the Italian Job remake. But honestly, I backed off of that idea some time ago for the director's study because his later career is very commercial. Alongside of this, we have Men in Black International, and that's really where I stayed away. So,
okay.
The fate of Fast 8 is that the writers reach into the hat and pull out another cliche. The crew is officially on call at this point for Interpol. They can't even turn jobs down now. They're just working for it. Right. At any point they need a car, they're getting called. But the Fast Gang is thrown a serious curveball this time, or should I say cue ball, because Vin Diesel is the bad guy. Oh no. Yes, believe it or not, in the endless soap opera writing of the series, they haven't pulled this card yet of the main character turning bad. This unites the team together of unlikely allies, all working together to find out why Toretto, of all people, would turn his back on family. That's our setup there for Fate of the Furious. Charlize Theron is a mastermind behind all of this, and she plays one cold-hearted bitch. I really gotta say, she gets some cool points for just being unflinchingly evil in this.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of her, specifically some lines. In 9, there's a very cringy Star Wars conversation that she's a part of. I don't even want to get into it.
Those are the worst.
I think her character works just because she's basically being like Atomic Blonde. She's just cool.
She's being a cool bitch.
Charlize, yeah,
and she's
absolutely.
hot. She's been hot for like 30 years now. It's like it works.
You've always had a soft spot for Charlize.
She's cool. Well, don't forget, you know what her first major acting job was?
What?
That Thing You Do. I'm not even joking.
Oh man,
Big thanks to Tom Hanks.
It comes to haunt me yet again. I can't escape it. Just the right amount of intelligence and steely attitude that is needed to sell the cool factor for her, and nowhere does it dip into annoying. So full credit. I think it was a cool villain to have. Mm-hmm. Having her be super evil is worth it because it actually brings out some rage in Dom, being an emotion that Vin Diesel can actually portray on screen.
Mm-hmm, right.
Being angry, showing rage, and having Dom turn into this evil version of himself. I mean, yes, very campy, but kind of just works. You know what I mean? And it works a lot more than what other movies try to juggle here. So I think this is far better motivation for the plot than any of the other times the team has been brought together for another mission with the feds. And having Dom become this Star Trek mirror evil version of himself, yes, it's campy for sure, but it results in well-paced action that has a plot that actually keeps your attention and kept my attention.
Okay.
So, also, the rule of cool that defines our villains is something completely thrown out for Fast X in a very, very bad way. A sneak preview of what I mean by, as this series goes on, you'd think it'd just be, okay, let's just do it again. Mm-hmm. It creates new problems for itself, which is just surprising. So,
it is, yeah.
Yeah. There is so much trash writing around hacking, though, in this film. Seriously, I lost count how many times characters just say hack into something. I mean, I don't think they even know what that actually means. I feel like it's repeated so many times that regardless of the tension and music blaring to make a more tense scene, every scene with a keyboard becomes just so visually boring. And again, another example of just like, at that moment, the roles are characters. They're not speaking as characters anymore. They're speaking as dialogue the writers are making to write themselves out of problems, plot holes, plot inconveniences, fake lore dumps, bullshit that just did not happen in the series. You know what I mean? All of that. That's where the cancer is.
Then I think it's safe to say, I don't know why we haven't. The two writers in this one is Gary Scott Thompson and Chris Morgan.
Okay.
Their fingerprints are all over so many of all these films.
Yeah.
And we just need to call them out because the writing profusely is just god-awful. It's trash.
It's repeat.
It has been a notable... I mean, let's be honest. I don't think you've said one good thing about the writing. You know what I mean?
I really haven't.
It's what can the actors do with poor writing, basically. So luckily Charlize, hey, she does a good job on this one. Right. But it's Gary Scott Thompson and Chris Morgan.
Yeah.
And
you're so right. They are
writers.
all over this place.
Yeah. There's other writers involved in some here, some there, whatever. But man, it's bad.
I know. And folks, I mean, if you're not maybe sensitive to technobabble, pointless hacking as just to kind of move the plot along. If that doesn't bother you, fantastic. I don't think it's worthy of praise either at the same time.
Well, but here's the thing. Because it's Fast and Furious, I hate to bring it up so much. Look at a John Wick, okay? Where Keanu Reeves took a hatchet to his script where he says barely anything. He doesn't speak in real sentences, whatever. There is no writing for him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But because that's not what you want in John Wick. In Fast and Furious, all you really want is car action, car foo.
Yeah.
The problem is they're trying to be something else.
Yeah, they're trying to be these spy thrillers, and they have to talk to be spy thrillers.
Right, exactly. So they're failing like in all aspects. All aspects.
For real. It also may feel a little bit too late to bring this up, but gunfire is unusually non-lethal in this one. My brain was pretty turned off at this point in the franchise, but weapons are really amped up in the use of our villains and the use of all characters without any of the stakes behind it to match it. Just yet another example of the constant plot armor that characters are given to rush to the finale without considering what it robs of rising action. If you can describe any of these latter 5 films, is that, you got to wait for the finale. It's so crazy what they pull off. But I think there's a misstep in creating tension in the earlier combat sequences, and gunfights are probably the worst of that.
Okay. Which is funny
because you got Lord of the Rings on the brain, Fellowship of the Ring. Talk about
bad gunfights.
Terrible gunfights. Right. Maybe Legolas can hang, but and also, boy, am I going to lose any credibility with car guys bringing up Lord of the Rings. But in the Fellowship of the Ring, when they first get the ring and they're traveling to the town and they first come across the Nazgul, that is a super tense scene because it feels like it is all on them getting caught. Like the whole thing can end there. Does that matter to the grand story of Lord of the Rings? No, but it's such a good scene to keep our attention in the rising action because it feels like a real threat.
Yes. Okay. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Everything.
Yeah. So these gunfights, they're inconsequential. Sure, I know an editor, I know the writer is saying, let's just get to what they want to see.
Right.
I'm telling you, your movie would be better with that.
I agree completely. It would be better without it.
Yeah,
it would be better without the gunfights.
Right. Absolutely.
But for sure.
Yeah. The car foo has reached a new level with Dom now able to whip cars around like a wrestling move. He gets like one new wrestling move with cars every movie now, so keep track at home. I just really don't understand how they take the line of it's who's behind the wheel and use it literally in these action sequences. I don't know why this jump really happened, but it's happening and continues to happen. By far, my biggest praise for this film, and why I think it is far from the worst film, is that the crew is constantly in cars. They really are.
Very cool.
They're in it all the time. More than ever, it really feels like a child is playing make-believe with toy cars, but I prefer it to then putting characters in situations that they don't belong in. For instance, they confront Dom in a circle, a country roundup of cars to wrangle him, to hogtie his charger. It might look idiotic, but at least the setup understands that our characters need a reason to drive. Otherwise, no reason will come in the whirlwind of spy schlock. You need to make these moments.
That's why we're here. That's why we think we're supposed to be there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? The movies are something else now, that's cool.
Yeah.
Be an idiot as long as you're in the cars.
Right.
Do stupid stuff.
Right. And I speak to the diehard fans of these movies. Isn't it all about, can you believe what they're driving this time? They got a new, this is a brand new car. This is a super car. You know what I mean? The variety of what they drive is exotic. Roman gets, the newest Lambo or something like that.
Right.
I feel like that as well. It's like the less they drive, the less there's an opportunity for just kind of like visual fun like that,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Notable stunts here are the intro race in Cuba, which is legitimately great. I actually loved that sequence in Cuba. I thought it was awesome. They're also driving old cars too, which...
Of course, that's cool.
Yeah. Really cool. And a remote control car sequence in New York, which is just a lot of fun, honestly. I'll end with saying this. The Rock has some of the best action sequences with Jason Statham and are flat out awesome here. A total night and day coming from Statham's role going up against Dom in the previous film. The jailbreak sequence between the two of them is a fantastic fight sequence and has fantastic fight choreography.
Okay.
After coming off the last 2 to 4 films, this was a revitalizing breath of fresh air, folks. Single-handedly, these action sequences made me want to check out Hobbs and Shaw, which I think is a huge win. And considering my usual reaction to these films is researching shock therapy to erase my memory of them afterwards, we're going to give The Fate of the Furious a 59.
Wow. Okay. All right. Pretty good. one notch above 6, I guess.
Still puddle.
Woo, boy.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to call this, for now, going on, we are in the Fast and Furious zone or something. Like, we'll have to name this something.
Right.
Very good. So, Fate of Furious, 59%. But still, as we say, the upper 50s, we're getting into, this is all right.
Yeah.
It's okay.
There's definitely notable qualities to it. There's definitely not good qualities to it.
Okay. All right, let's keep it moving here. We might be running long a little bit here.
Yep.
Chatty Cathy today. Original title, F9, but nope, they had to change it to F9, The Fast Saga. This is contention for me for worst title out of all of them.
Really? Wow.
I was always to understand a trilogy is 3 movies and a saga is 6.
Oh,
that's why the original 6 Star Wars I was considered or was heard was called the Star Wars Saga.
Yep.
I always thought saga was 6.
Or the Skywalker Saga. Yep.
This is the 9th film. This is F9, The Fast Saga. Okay. Vin, it's 2 hours and 23 minutes. How did we like it? We're getting into pretty lengthy stuff now.
Yeah, absolutely. The king is back in his throne. Justin Lin is back directing for the last time. Just when you think this series couldn't pull off any more tropes from soap operas, we scour more of Dom's past for ghosts and find his long-lost brother. Oh, joy. I mean, really, really feels like a soap opera at this point.
Yep.
This, of course, brings in the latest buff dude on the rise in Hollywood at the time, John Cena. Now, folks, I know I'm late to this one, but can we please just take a moment to discuss the absurdity of this? As a rule of thumb in the series, Vin Diesel's nationality and background has been intentionally obscure, but John Cena and Vin Diesel as brothers? Like, huh? That's what I kept on saying out loud. I went, huh? Just trying to make myself laugh.
Have you given a thought of who would make sense as Vin Diesel's
No,
brother?
Don't write this. Don't write this story. Because it's so, I mean, I hate to say it. It's so predictable as well where it goes with this like brother type of long lost brother writing. I mean, man.
Yeah.
Man, it feels like I'm in like
so
like
right.
an old 60s show or something.
They are
like
hitting
that.
everyone they can.
Yeah,
Every
man.
single trope.
It's bad. Now, this gives us a lot of flashback material, and I will say honestly, I didn't mind the younger actors playing earlier versions of these characters. If anything, it was cool seeing the original crew from Fast 1 as younger characters, so a little bit of an enjoyment there.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, folks, it is smokescreen for idiotic casting because these younger actors look like actual brothers to trick the eye into accepting the impossible. The impossible being John Cena and Vin Diesel being brothers, blood related. John Cena being younger. That's the big elephant in the room. Justin Lin returning also means we scrape the barrel on character callbacks. And not to leave his ugly stepchild behind, we finally get our Tokyo Drift characters added into the gang.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so you guessed it. Hank Hill and Twinkie are back once again. The actual structure of the story introduces a lot of plotline juggling, which is unfortunately a trend that continues into Fast X. It certainly makes it feel like a hopping around spy action movie, but there are just too many at once, and it makes it a mess. You have, all at once, the Dom Solo story, the flashbacks to the past, Girl Squad following leads, Luda and Tyrese funny duo handling the Tokyo Drift reunion. It's all too much.
Yeah.
It feels broken up. I mean, listen, folks, for blockbuster films, I can get behind some back at the ranch style storytelling. You know, don't get me wrong. I love Empire Strikes Back too. You know, I get it. It's a good format, but this shit is just taking a perfectly fine story and making it borderline dyslexic.
Yeah,
like it is intentionally mixing things up too much to create, I think, a perceived kind of pacing or rhythm, and it's not there.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Now, I know the crew has been doing the super spy thing for a minute now, so much so that they bring jobs to Dom, and he turns them down, and they do it regardless. But very early in a scene with Roman just shows how far we have slipped into shit writing. No joke, Tom. We get a scene with 14 dudes with rifles around him. Soldiers with rifles around them.
Okay.
They have all of them the higher ground on this man. and Roman spins around shooting an AK-47, killing absolutely everyone without a scratch. Like, I'm sorry. If this was a good action sequence in your eyes, we're going to need to spend some time watching some good action films. I think I'm going to have to open some open office hours that I meet with people and say, all right, listen, I get it, but let's maybe go somewhere else with your time.
Different writers this time. Justin Lin is a part of this, and some other writers.
Yeah, rinse and repeat of what I said with the previous one.
I know. It's just, man.
You just see that it's the priority is not on these little beats. They see them as, I don't know if it's filler, but I don't know.
Do people think the writing's good?
No, I don't think so.
There's no way that is a thing, right?
I don't think so. I think it's all about spectacle.
Okay. All right.
But these are the things that kind of ruin the spectacle for me, if I'm being honest.
It takes you out of it completely. Yeah, absolutely.
The car foo is more outrageous than ever, which I feel like I'm saying constantly now. Dom literally Spider-Man swings with a car at one point. I don't know. Notable stunts are an early minefield race, which is pretty cool. Actually, the flashback drag race with Dom and his bro, I thought that was a great scene and captured some of like a Fast 1 magic.
Okay, cool.
Credit to Justin Lin for kind of recapturing that. And a super fun sequence with a big magnet truck, which I'm sure you know if you've seen the film. Oddly enough, I would say if you somehow have seen Fast 10 before this, I feel this movie lays down yet another template change for the franchise, mainly in the structure of juggling 6 plus plots before we converge for the finale.
The saga.
The saga.
Okay, makes sense now. I'm fine. Is it 6 or did you just say 6?
6. No, 6 plot lines.
Okay, it's the Fast Saga. I'm fine with it now.
Right, okay. All right. But
genius writing.
Yeah, but as we'll chat about in a few moments, I think this further change is for the worst. We're going to go ahead and give F9, the Fast Saga, a 46.
46, okay. All right, yeah, a tick below, third worst one so far. And I would say I didn't realize that this was maybe kicking off something else. So if you really are starting fresh with it or something like that, maybe you can start here and then watch 10?
Maybe. And maybe that's a gauge, instead of tackling the whole franchise, that this movie is making your stomach churn, then that's the cutoff. Like, don't go any further. And
right.
Maybe that's evidence to go back to see if it's worth it.
Right. But just as far as storyline as well, again, I always thought 8, 9, and 10 paired. But not really, because 8 really takes a different type of thing with Dom Bad Guy.
Yeah, but it's all Charlize as like the...
Oh, yeah, that's true, too.
Yeah, she's kind of like
she's
like
connected.
There's Spectre
right.
level, you know?
All right, folks. So just remember, folks, we're going off the value for value model here. So are you finding value in the podcast, the website, the newsletter? If you could, go to thedailyratings.com. You head over to the donations tab, and through your monetary support, you become an official producer of the Daily Ratings. You go ahead and write in a note, and we're going to read it here right on the podcast. Questions, comments, critiques, love, hate, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you're sending something our way, we're going to go ahead and read that on the podcast. As far as the newsletter goes, go to the bottom of the website. Go ahead and sign up for it. All you got to do is confirm it, and you're good to go. People are enjoying it.
Yeah.
The few who are opening them and everything like that and signing up for it. But slowly, I think people are going to start enjoying that more and more.
And further value add, further ways that we can connect.
It's fun. Yeah. It'll put a smile on your face every Tuesday morning.
For sure.
But anyway, like I said, it's thedailyratings.com. Head to the donations tab. You all are going to really help us keep this going. It helps. Again, we have small overhead here, but it just helps it even more. You guys are helping out with that. You are being actual producers, and we want to do this for a long time. We want to grow and grow. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, tell a friend, a family member, the guy in back you talking about a movie, how great Fast 10 was. Go ahead and say, hey, well, you got to listen to this guy, Vincent Daly.
Wait until you hear his reviews. He's crazy, bro.
Like I said, dailyratings.com, donations tab. We thank you all so much. And with that, Vin, wipe the sweat off your brow. We have reached the end. We have.
It feels surreal.
It's been a long time here. Okay,
I can't tell if it's an illusion.
It's very much real. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Fast 10. This is our newly released It is our longest one so far at 2 hours and 21 minutes. Never mind, it's not our longest one.
Really?
No, they're correct. F9, 2 minutes longer.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
This one felt longest by far.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vin, Fast 10, new movie. How did we like it?
Well, this movie again creates unique and new problems for itself, and I can't say it's for the better. I can't say that the good outweighs the bad. Louis Leterrier, the director of Transporter 1 and 2, the Ed Norton Hulk movie, and as well the magician schlock, Now You See Me. He's now back, most likely to work with Statham and Cars again. I think, honestly, on paper, that looks like a match made in heaven, going back to the Transporter series. But it creates more problems than I could ever imagine this deep in the series. And I think it just it compounds what we've been saying, like,
does make sense.
how do you not have it down yet?
Exactly.
How are we messing up at all? You know what I mean?
So true. It's so true.
Yeah. If anything, shooting for mediocrity, I think, would be more successful in ways. Folks, it is a hardcore love letter to Fast 5, and honestly, recap city for everything. There are multiple scenes where an actor just has all the movies playing around them. I think, legitimately, 3 scenes. They just have every scene of every movie playing around them.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's super weird. More kind of tech garbage. And maybe this will be useful because there are literally 10 of these movies. Most of them are mediocre to bad. So I personally found this recap city annoying. No, hey, maybe it's going to be useful for someone literally jumping into Fast 5 or these latter movies only.
Yeah.
So.
And it should be, that makes sense that, hey, you have Fast 5, now we have Fast 10. We're going to be playing with that. We're going to be having a good time. It's probably Super Avengers time as well. Yeah. Because Fast 5 is what really launched it. Also, because of that, it was getting so critically praised and the fans loved it. You were not quite on that train.
Yeah.
Now, I gave it a 55. So if you look at these, it's on the higher end.
Right.
I guess. But you know what I mean? It wasn't, it didn't punch like it was maybe supposed to.
Right.
So here we are back at it again.
Touted as the best of the series.
Yeah.
So, and I think that legacy of best of the series is exactly why they're scraping the barrel for, its flashback content and, where they're pulling from.
Yeah.
So they're trying to, as weird as it sounds, muster nostalgia for a series that's been running this long. So I have to get some production critiques out of the way, though, folks, before we go into some of the further rough spots of this film. This movie is edited by a toddler. There are so many fade to black transitions put in front of cuts. I thought my brain was losing oxygen and I was blacking out in moments. It was... I'm telling you, it looks terrible. It's like a high school's first editing production.
Man, that's really surprising.
Yeah, I checked.
They are using different guys.
Oh, for the editors?
Yeah, a lot of the same editors in the first 5 actually that we covered. Now it's starting to be a little bit more sporadic.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so it's not like we do have different guys coming in.
Yeah, but let me tell you, this is where I went back to the James Wan directed one, because I was like, man, the editing's good here, and how is it not by 10? You know what I mean? They have more money.
$340 million budget. $340 million.
That is
and what's kind of shocking is that F8, second most successful, made $1.2 billion.
Oh, okay.
And then Fate of the Furious, or F9, drops big time, 700 and something million.
Interesting.
So now it's like, well, it's the 10th one. Let's just throw it's almost an extra $100 million from the budget from 9 to 10.
Yeah. That's crazy.
340 is absurd. Yeah. And I guess that's not going into the editing.
Right. It's real bad. And like I said, just rookie moves all over the place for this. I've never really brought up ADR, added audio lines in post-production, before as a critique. This is not something I really have to critique, because usually ADR lines are for lower kind of, B-list, C-list type of movies that they're coming in, because it's a sloppy production when they're making it, and they have to kind of scrap it together in post-production. But there is a mind-blowing amount of these ADR lines, and it is so noticeable, very sloppy. Anytime a character character's mouth was not shown what they were directly speaking. They are you hear them speaking in a sound booth, and I can't help but feel that this is also like
you're kidding me,
like studio notes as well to shift around easy lines into whatever plays best with test audiences.
Okay, that's pathetic.
Yeah.
Justin Lin, again, is that writing this, by the way.
Oh, okay. Are you sure it's not like an ongoing credit for him, or is he's actually in?
Yes, no. The ongoing credit is somebody else. Okay, and that's Gary Scott Thompson, actually,
Got it.
because he's part of the he built the characters, so he's always get some credit.
Sure.
Justin Lin is properly in the writing seat here, story and screenplay.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, and that ADR for also where it's heavily used and people can notice it and kind of roll their eyes is when it's when a movie is brought to television and there's curse words in it and they have to family proof it or prove it for
bingo.
So curse words will be really hilarious sometimes or something like that. There's famous ones in like Die Hard and everything like that.
Yep. Or Snakes on a Plane.
Sure, yeah. And sure. And you know, I have noticed it a couple times. The funny thing is they've used it a couple times in Free Solo.
Oh, really?
The Alex Honnold one, yeah.
Interesting.
Because they wanted to keep it PG-13, but because it's documentary field, there's too many F words in it. So they had to cut it through.
Yeah,
and
he does what he wants.
And I'll tell you what, when all of a sudden you have... when it's noticeable, man, it takes you out. And like you said, it just sounds like someone is in a studio. And it's like, could you not capture just some background noise, play it over? I mean, it's $340 million.
Right. You should have audio engineers out the wazoo. I'm telling you, it sounds like they're in a sound booth. It's noticeable. If you don't notice it, specifically, there's a sequence where Dom turns his back and walks towards the kid. In like, I think the shot is of the stairwell in his house. And I'm telling you, I mean, it was seriously worse than when they had to compensate for Paul Walker dying. I feel like they did a better job trying to cover up things with tech then, and no reason to cover up now.
And this is film 10.
Yeah.
Film 10.
So, if folks, if that's more production nitpick, if that doesn't matter to you. What I would say is that if you plan to see Fast 10, maybe try to keep an eye out for it, because I feel like it was really just such a cut and dry example of just bad ADR and bad post-production tricks.
Yeah.
That I don't know. Write in if you think of.
If you had to count it, because we spent some time on it, but if you had to count, how many?
Countless.
No.
But at a certain point, I wrote down the note and then I was moving on.
Okay, right.
So, but enough of that. Let's chat about the scraps of story that Fast X is cobbled together from. Once again, a ghost from Dom's past creeps out of the shadows to take a shot at the king. This time, it is the son of the Brazilian crime lord from Fast 5, played by Aquaman, Jason Momoa. Dom and crew are painted to be international criminals once again, forcing them on the run. But a lot is covered in that because once again we have this multi-story juggling. Yet again, we get Dom having a personal story. We get Letty now having a solo story. We get the rest of the crew scrambling to find purpose to exist at all in the story. We get a much deeper story with the Feds and Interpol plotline. And we get finally John Cena playing this comedy uncle now. Like, what? The thing is, like, it kind of works as scenes, but it's just such whiplash among all of it. It's just like, oh my God. It's like going to a buffet and putting literally everything on the plate. Like, oh my God, nauseous. This is obviously a self-inflicted wound by the growing cast of characters that never die because of their plot armor, but once again is just impossibly sloppy in presentation. And boy, is this one family overload, because why are all these characters trying to give a damn in the first place? It's because of family. So, we hit the mark. Hopefully for the last time, I'll have to say technobabble for many, many reviews. Maybe all year, I really hope. The script is almost nauseating. Ludacris genuinely just needs to stop talking at this point. He says a line with like a micro emitter, gamma wave. Like, oh my God. It was just like, please. The lines aren't even given enough room to breathe because they're obviously meant to be nothing, but now are rushed through with this sloppy editing showing its ugly face space again. So it kind of quickly spotlights how nonsensical they are in the first place. Once again, slipping into a worst area. I haven't talked about trimming the fat on runtime for the entire franchise. I know, I'm very proud of myself, folks. I didn't say trim the fat once. But seriously, separating the crew gives them nothing to do. I feel like all of the main auxiliary crew are left hanging in the wind, especially now that Letty is further giving a solo story, with Dom now having a solo story. Their involvement is distinctly pointless throughout the whole runtime, and honestly, with this new 2 hours 30 or just shy cap, we could have really cut them out altogether and probably made a much stronger film. I feel like.
Oh wow! Okay,
I feel
sure.
like it's so pointless that if we cut them out entirely and just say, the crew's elsewhere, we're kind of focusing just on Dom this time.
You can almost understand it.
I think it would be like significantly better.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, no, that makes sense though.
Yeah.
Slim it, trim it.
Absolutely.
And be there what works. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If anything, the old standby, get to the finale, get to the action. So, reprising his role as Spy Kids 1 Thumb Monster, Vin Diesel is showing some surprising emotion actually here, as to my disbelief, far from the worst part of the movie. So we have a happy ending. No.
we have our bookends.
Yeah.
Because in one,
right,
you didn't hate his acting and was actually okay. And in this one, it could be a positive note.
It's kind of all right. I would maybe give him some more praise in this department if it wasn't so drastically off balance with our villain. Tonally, all of our villains so far, and I mean like in every one of these movies, have just operated on rule of cool. They're evil people. They like doing evil things. They maybe got some world domination goals, and Vin has simply had to match that in his own way, in his own family-themed, way. But Vin has to contend with much more than he can handle this time around. Buckle in, folks. Jason Momoa. This performance is truly, truly awful, and may be the series' first outright horrible villain. This is what I mean. This was not a problem for 9 goddamn movies.
Wow. And not that they were like unbelievably electric.
Right.
But they weren't terrible.
But they weren't bad. They were just villains.
Man, I can't say I'm surprised. I really don't like Jason Momoa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm defending him.
No, for sure. But yeah, I've never been a fan. I just don't think he has it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, this is just a colossal, and I mean it, folks, a colossal amount of hammy, over-the-top acting that it becomes beyond annoying. He dresses like a genie. He twirls and conducts explosions while they go off with his hands. He calls Toretto pet names like Dommy Boy. What? And worst of all, this manic Joker energy is just so woefully mismatched with a crew, with every single actor that is in no way in a position to try or can match that energy. They haven't been trained to match that energy.
Right.
They've only matched other villains with just amping up their cool family theme. Let me tell you, this manic energy is just such a mismatch because it leaves them just slack-jawed and without any wit to combat him with. I would, in a nutshell, describe Momoa's performance as half Batman Joker, half Nick Cage and Face Off.
Wow.
That's how hammy we're talking.
Wow, okay.
Maybe portion leaning to Nick Cage Face Off. It was something about him conducting explosions.
Yeah, Jason Momoa he's supposed to be just super cool.
Right, or tough guy.
Yeah, you want to be, yeah.
We'll see with Aquaman coming up later in the year.
Okay. Yeah.
And listen, folks, while this may tempt some of you hearing that description of just such over-the-topness in Momoa's performance, this movie is a train wreck. I assure you, it is all just cringe. The byproduct of this manic, witty writing that he has, and performance mostly, is that none of the characters can hang with it. Dom Toretto most of all. So while Momoa is dancing around on screen, he not only looks like an idiot, the other characters are brought down by it because they feel like slack-jawed morons not able to sling comebacks back at him. They're not empowered by this acting. Momoa has sunk this entire thing in like the most selfish way possible. Like, if someone is meant to be cool, give it to your main people.
Yes.
Give it to the guys that have tried to be cool for this entire franchise.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now they sink with the ship because Momoa is trying to do like the most overacting I have seen. I mean, I don't know. I was slack-jawed in the theater.
Wow. I can't believe it's that much.
It's nauseating.
I can't believe it's that much because, again, he's a big buff dude. You think he'd just be like, you think he'd be cool, badass, intimidating.
Right.
And he's just acting a fool.
Right.
Yeah.
Another perfect example is Charlize is in this.
Yeah.
And how he interacts with Charlize, even she, like her
you
this
don't know
cool
what to
demeanor,
do with this
she
child.
does. Yeah. She fails. The character fails because he's become an absolute cartoon, and it's just total cringe. Like I don't like using the word cringe. But like it's skin crawling. I wanted to jump out of my seat.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Man. But I mean that's really the heart of it, folks. It's Momoa sinks the ship and has collateral damage. You know, there's collateral damage usually in these car stunts.
Yep.
You know, they never talk about the collateral damage of bystanders getting wrapped up in the sheer mayhem. The collateral damage this time is on the actor level, and Momoa is almost solely to blame. I hate to not have many stunts notes for this, and this far into the movies, but honestly, I think I might have been numb at this point. We'll talk about notable stunts. There is a bomb ball in Rome that is basically a shout out to Fast 5, which is pretty cool. A lot of cool destruction, and Rome is an interesting kind of racing city as well. And where would we be without new Kung Fu wrestling move from Dom? This time, he grapples multiple helicopters from the seat of his Charger to whip them around in some sort of weaponized way. I can't make it up. Folks, this was flat out a bad movie, but honestly got worse. There is an absolute garbage cliffhanger ending to this.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, you teased it last week. You were like,
they're talking.
11 is happening.
Yeah.
And very
and
potentially
they're talking
12. Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know. I don't really have to comment on cliffhangers so much or too much for the podcast, but it's seriously unsatisfyingly early of a cutoff for the finale.
Okay.
Just to push Fast 11.
Yep, okay.
I feel like even fans might get a little pissed at this because it's like such a cliffhanger.
Yeah, okay.
It sucks because so much of the film was juggling all these characters for such little to be accomplished in the plot to begin with, to then end with no satisfaction to the plot.
Right.
Then it's all set up and no payoff. And even without that, the movie failed in such a new and uniquely bad way. It really feels like the end for a different reason. But we all know the wheels are on the wagon for a little bit longer. And maybe my nightmare is that the NOS will never run out. We're going to go ahead and give Fast X. Get ready for it.
Here we go.
A 31.
Wow. Oh, whoa!
It's the worst. Without a doubt.
Wow.
Without a doubt in my
mind. What a way to end.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes me very happy, yeah.
You got to flush out the low numbers.
Wow. Okay. So we have 3 in the 30s.
I love that gets the
poetic. Yeah, I like it. By the way, that bomb ball scene, that was in the, and I talked about it last week. I posted again in the newsletter where there's B-roll and behind the scenes footage of those scenes being filmed.
Oh, okay.
So cool to see an actual fiery ball being rolled down. Yeah, and actually going through a van and everything like that, and causing some commotion like that. That was kind of cool.
It's the mayhem.
So check it out if you want there on the newsletter.
Absolutely.
But other than that, okay, Vin, 31. Shocking. Truly shocking.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it because, again, I just figured, okay, we're in the 10th one. The action is just going to be so cool or awesome, but
right, more budget than ever, more callbacks than ever. But I think it really just boils down to that cliffhanger ending. It's distinctly unsatisfying.
This is unbelievable. Thank you so much for watching all these and doing this.
Listen, like I said from the beginning of last episode, surprisingly easy watches. I mean, as much as it's a lot of shitting on it, it's
right, they're action films.
It's trying to put into words why it's so bad. It was easy watches.
The funny thing is in the beginning, we didn't talk about this last week. In the beginning of kind of you watching these, didn't you send me an article where the production company was going to pay someone $1,000 to sit down and watch all of them.
Yeah, a little bit of a clickbait article going around, but specifically they wanted to count how many car wrecks were in all of them, and I wasn't keeping track of that.
Okay,
I had enough work to do. For whatever scam company, where you go send me $1,000 in gift cards. Or something.
So how do we want to do? So we'll go down through all 10 scores here.
Sure.
Do you want to start with worst to best, best to worst?
Let's do best to worst.
Okay, so best to worst was okay. I got my
Scouring
sheets here.
through the notes.
Yeah, my scouting report here. Best to worst. Best, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Say it.
Notably, the worst as far as like most.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Okay.
The history of it is critically panned.
Okay, so 63% is as high as the franchise goes. 63%.
We should just end the episode there.
Too Fast, Too Furious. In second place, we have The Fate of the Furious, number 8, with a 59%. A tick below, we have Fast and Furious 6 with a 58%. Then where do we go from there? We have Fast 5 with a 55%.
Yep.
Then we get, of course, we get the very first one, the Fast and the Furious with the 51.
Oh, I think Tokyo Drift is 53.
Sorry, yeah. Yes, okay. So
That sigh was so real. It was so unprompted.
yeah, you're right. So Fast and Furious 6 with a 58 is number 3.
Yep.
Fourth best is The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift with a 53. Fifth best, right in the middle, The Fast and the Furious, the first one with a 51. Okay, then we get F8te, The Fast Saga with a 46%.
Yep.
And then we're jumping all the way to the 30s immediately, and they're all pretty similar. Furious 7 with a 34, Fast and Furious with a 33, and Fast 10 with a 31%.
Unreal.
That's where we're at. I think my least favorite title, now that I know about the saga,
okay,
and there actually might be
some
brain cells that put that together.
Connective tissue there.
I would say Tokyo Drift is super long.
Yeah, clumsy.
Yep.
For sure.
The thing is, it's not even the names solely just themselves. Too Fast and Too Furious is just funny.
Yeah.
But it's just the fact of there's no commonalities to anything. Guardians of the Galaxy. Then you have Volume 2. You have Volume 3.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know why they couldn't just...
Maybe some car puns. maybe, you know what I mean? V8. You know?
But it's
Fast
annoying because
Furious,
it's just like this first film is The Fast and the Furious, and then the fourth film out of 10 is Fast and Furious.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the big hurdle.
We're all over the place. And then it's like F9, The Fast Saga, The Fate of the Furious, but then F8 is labeled everywhere on everything.
I know, yeah.
Do you have any closing notes, Finn?
Listen, my only note is that, one, this was not a pain, as much as there was, an exhaustion, I think, in both of our voices.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I love to do. I love to watch things in order and call heads or tails on which ones are the good and which one are the bad. This honestly scratched the same itch that I like when doing a director's study or something like that.
It is interesting. I mean, listen, we did all 10, which is great. You know what I mean? So... That's fun. It's funny because it's just there's so many of these are so similar.
Yeah.
You have the ones in the 50s, basically. Mm-hmm. One in the 60s, one in the 40, and then you just have 3 in the 30s. I mean, we are in a Fast and Furious. We'll have to come up with some type of thing.
The fast puddle. The
the
furious drippings. Yeah, but that would be the only thing I have to comment on. And folks, listen, like I always say, if you like these movies, I think maybe even more than ever, these movies are meant to be popcorn. I don't see a problem in liking these movies, despite maybe my comments with the action sequence in the one. But let me tell you, I mean, I just think for me, as much as they try to go for a cool factor, there's much cooler, there's much slicker around, and maybe we can get to that. For a long time, I haven't brought it up in a while, but I was thinking about doing some sort of special on racing films through the decades, and trying to see what makes, and call heads or tails, and what makes an actually good racing sequence. You know, this definitely helped with that.
Oh,
for better or worse.
That still might come, or maybe we'll sprinkle them in there throughout.
Who knows?
Yeah. All right, Finn. Very good. Yeah, back next week, kind of with just back to normal, just a bunch of different movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hopefully you can pick some that you've been looking forward to, something like that. Some of the old ones, just something for you, Vin. Thank you so much for watching these, sitting down, taking notes to them, stopping by here, and being with us for a little bit. Folks, thank you so much for listening, and I'll just run down these 5 again here. We have Fast and Furious 6 with the 58, Furious 7 with the 34, The Fate of the Furious with the 59, F9, the Fast Saga with the 46, and finally, Fast 10 with the 31%. Folks, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, could you give us a good rating or tell a friend about us? If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, or if you just like to see more movie ratings for Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer and go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel you received from us. We're looking to build this into something large and great, folks, but we also want to be independent from those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.